delighted to have Ali Moore from Mint Design to take today's program. Mint Design's an award-winning design agency, usually based in Christchurch, but now up in Auckland as well. And so today, hopefully you'll have a few tidbits to be able to take home to try out on Monday. So welcome, Ali. Ali's also got with her a couple of other people from Mint Design, Shane and James, and they'll be part of the panel later on. If there are any questions that come up during this morning's presentation, if you just put it on the chat, and we'll handle the questions at the end of the presentation. So welcome, Ali, and we look forward to some info on digital design.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here, and I always get really excited when people from different sectors are interested in learning more about digital marketing. No doubt some of you have had a crack at digital marketing before, and some of you might be brand new. So hopefully there's something for everyone today, and hopefully you can all come away with something practical that you can apply in your business. So I know it's not always easy to hold attention spans in webinars, especially on a Friday. So I'll try and make today fast and fun. Okay, so let's dive in and look at our agenda for today. So if you want to go to the next slide, please, Rudy. So this is a little bit about what we're going to cover. If you could just go to the next slide, please. See if I can see what our agenda is. There we go. That's the one. Thank you. Okay, so we'll start by looking at discovering your patient's lifetime value. So that's what we can expect to make in terms of revenue out of each patient that we have on the books. Also, getting your website working a little bit harder for your business. It's another key part of the puzzle. Retargeting for upsells and content marketing for patient retention. We'll look at Google My Business, and I'll also answer a few frequently asked questions about Facebook. All right, so let's dive into it. So first up, we'll look a little bit about some digital marketing theory, and I won't hover on this for too long. Like I said, attention spans on a Friday can be a little bit shorter than usual, but we should briefly cover this because lifetime customer value is a really crucial number for business owners and marketers alike. So if you don't know your lifetime value of your customers, if you could just go back one, please. That's fine if you want to. Great, thank you. So you wouldn't know how much you should be spending on acquiring a customer if you don't know their lifetime value, and you'll likely struggle to forecast earnings. So as marketers, we're really interested in knowing this number because it helps us to understand an appropriate spend for customer acquisition. And naturally, what is appropriate and justifiable varies a lot from market to market. So for example, a home builder like GJ Gardner, they gained thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars from a single sale. So for them, their customer lifetime value is really different from somebody like a retailer who's selling like desks, stand-up desks for an at-home office. They're probably going to be making a couple of $100s. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see that Starbucks have done a really great job of calculating lifetime value. They arguably do a better job of calculating their lifetime value and understanding their customers than they do of actually making coffee. Hopefully there's nobody from Starbucks here on the call today. But so yeah, they do provide a really good example. And as you can see on screen, Starbucks customers are typically worth US $14,000 to Starbucks over the course of a lifetime. So of course that is taking into consideration people who go there occasionally, maybe once every 6 months when their friend invites them to go. And then there's also the lifers, the people that go there maybe once or twice a day to get coffee and maybe some lunch. So how Starbucks arrives at that figure looks a little bit something like this. If you go to the next slide, please, Rudy. Yeah, this one here. So there's three equations that Starbucks uses to come up with their lifetime value. On my next slide, I've got a really nice, simple way of calculating this, and we'll stay simple today because it's Friday. So as you can see here, what you need to do is plug in your actual or estimated numbers into the following equation. So you want to go the average value of a sale times the number of repeat transactions that you can expect from a patient over the course of their lifetime, times the average retention of months or years of a typical patient. Then you get your lifetime value. So hopefully you've got some numbers from Xero or MYOB or something that can help you out with this. So what do marketers want with this number? Why do we look at this? Well, when we've got it, we go, okay, so that's your revenue. So what's your profit? What margin do we have to play with? And this varies from business to business, but it gives us a number to play with in terms of how much we should be spending on marketing. If we go to the next slide, please. An important part of the equation in increasing your lifetime value, well, that is an important part of the equation, sorry, is actually increasing the value that we get from people. So we all have customers that we know to be the good ones. They keep coming back, they bring their friends, they sing our praises, and they send us referrals. So they value their dental health likely. They are probably the types of patients that you have that know that they should come see the hygienist every 6 months, they should come see the dentist every 12 months. Hopefully I've got those numbers right-ish. So for them, it's a no-brainer to be getting regular checkups. So we really want to do a lot of focus on getting the right customers. With dentistry, I understand that practices are, when they're new to the market, they might do things like jump on Grab One, which is really great for getting some short-term wins and getting some new customers in. But we tend to, when we work on platforms like Grab One, we can be attracting those customers that are likely to jump as quickly onto another dentist's deal when they have one too. So they're not necessarily the lifers that we want. Okay, next slide. So it probably comes as no surprise that increasing customer satisfaction is a really important part of increasing their lifetime value. So what is surprising though is how little you actually need to increase somebody's satisfaction to get really big gains on their lifetime value with you. So some research done by Bain & Company showed that increasing customer satisfaction by 5% can increase their value to you, how much they spend with you, by 25 to 95%. So I can share a little bit about how we do that at Mint, how we work to create customer satisfaction. So client retention is really important to us. We tend to work with clients for years when they come and work with us. So having a happy and working relationship is really important for everyone. So first of all, we do the really cute stuff. Like on my next slide, I've got a picture of some macarons that we send out to our clients after they build a new website with us. Rudy, if you could just jump to the next slide so everyone can see my picture. This is actually our old brand. This was taken at Christmas time, so it looks a little bit different from my slide deck, but you get the idea. I thought it was nice to show you guys a picture of that. So we work with a local provider that created mint and vanilla macarons that we can send out to our clients, which is a really nice touch. We kind of consider this to be a cherry on the top, right? So you can't put a cherry on melted ice cream or freezer burnt ice cream. You've really got to get those foundations right. So on the next slide, you'll see that we've identified what people really want in an agency, and we've defined this as our 3 pillars of performance. So for us, it's about proactive approaches and how we actually work with clients. We know that they want us to come with ideas. They want us to contact them before they contact us. We do get a lot of people moving to us because their agency isn't proactive enough. So we know that this is really important. We're also really big on understanding a business model. So what the income drivers are, where the opportunities lay. And when it comes to communication, we try to keep it really frequent, and we have specific communication rhythms that we know are really important for key milestones in particular projects. So for you, if we go to the next slide, when it comes to increasing your customer satisfaction, it's about choosing where you want to sit on the continuum of customer satisfaction, because the sky's the limit, right? You can invest so much. You could hire someone who is dedicated to patient experience, but we have to be practical, right? And sometimes it really does it's just about creating something that you can build on in the future. So there's some basic things like texting people when they're due for a checkup. I personally love getting these reminders because it helps me, it sort of shows me that somebody else is interested in a part of my healthcare, which is really great. And then there's at the more involved end of the continuum, where you might find that you're sort of setting new standards in patient experience. It could be things like efforts to reduce waiting room times. Lord knows how you would do that. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I know that the likes of my GP clinic is really big on that kind of thing. Also at my dentists, they have a really cool screen that you can look at when you're lying in the chair, and you can see, I think it's just YouTube clips of Italy and Positano and stuff, which is a really nice place to go when you're getting drilled. And then there's also things that, you know, you can do digitally in terms of marketing with automated sequences with information about oral health and how to look after your teeth. And all of these things are an investment in the lifetime of your patient. Okay, let's move on and look at how we can use our website, get it working a little bit harder, taking some of the load. We've always said that websites should be a little bit like a member of your team, helping you to answer questions. Ready, if you just want to jump to the next slide, please. So websites can be a really good ambassador for your brand and hopefully helping to manage your calendar or your appointment book. And one of the things that we really do need to understand about our websites is why people are coming to our website. So if we flip to the next slide, typically we can lump people into one of three categories. So first of all, they might be there as a result of a Google search. They could be shopping around for a new dentist because they've moved to a new area, or they could be looking for emergency help. And secondly, it could be a result of repeat business. They could be making a booking or looking up your address because they've forgotten. Or thirdly, they could be there as a result of word of mouth, or if you just jump back a couple of slides, really will be on the same page. There we go. Cool. Thank you. Yep, that's the one. Cheers. So yeah, if they're there as a result of word of mouth or referral, that's a really great place to be. We love that. Okay, so let's have a chat about Google, because I know people are always really curious about how this works and what it might cost them to get ranking. So if we have a look at the next slide, this is some Google search results. So I did a search for Dentist Christchurch. On the left, I'm showing you what I saw on my desktop, on my laptop computer. On the other side, you can see what I've got on my mobile device. So this is what we call above the fold. This is what we see before we start scrolling down the page. So on my desktop, we've got 3 listings for dentists, then this map area, and we're going to have a closer look at that soon. Then on mobile view over on the right, we can see 2 listings before we start scrolling down. What all of these things have in common, all of these listings have in common, is that they're ads. So they've paid Google to be here, or more specifically, when people actually click on these ads, Google clips the ticket. Okay, so let's scroll down a little bit. So if we go to the next slide, this is what we see a little bit further down the page. Again, desktop on the left, mobile on the right. On desktop, Google is showing me local area listings. So this is listings that are near me, and they're ranking well in Google's local algorithm. I'll get to this soon. It's a really, really cool tool. It's powerful and it's free, and I get quite excited telling people about it. Finally, below that, we've got organic listings. So this is the result of SEO, or search engine optimization. It's what people get when they ask to rank at the top of Google, but not pay Google with every click. Back a few years ago, this was actually the prime spot. That was before Google decided to make ads more prominent. It's still a really valuable digital asset for a business to have. It still gets a lot of clicks, and our clients get a lot of value from the work that we do on SEO. But as you can see, ads are at the top. Now on the mobile view, once again, we're seeing ads. Then below that, we've got local area listings, and no organic results here until we scroll a little bit further down. So as you can see on mobile, ads are even more important. So with that in mind, if you are looking to gain new patients, to grow the number of patients that you have in your practice, Google Ads is a really important tool in digital marketing. So if we have a look at the next slide, a couple of things about Google Ads, a couple of things that we always get asked about. So they're pretty user-friendly. People love that you can set your own budget, so you can set a maximum that Google can bill you every month. And how it works is basically Google deducts every time somebody clicks your ad, and costs do vary a lot, how much each keyword is worth. I've got more on that on our next slide, but obviously that's a really important piece of the puzzle. How much does a click cost? The other thing that people love about it is that you can pause ads. So if you get busy, or if you're closing down over the Christmas period, or if you're taking a break, you can pause your ads for a period of time. And of course, you can target your local area so that you're only showing ads to relevant people. Alrighty, so on the next slide, I've got some common keywords and their click cost. So as you can see, they kind of vary a little bit from 92 cents up to $5.80 for a dentist emergency. So just to give you an idea of what you'd be up for, I thought this might be useful. So let's say you have a click budget of something like $400 a month. We distribute that over 30 days so that you have an even distribution of new business coming through the website, coming through the phone every month. That way you get that nice even distribution and you don't wear out your receptionist if you're getting $400 worth of clicks coming through on one day. Now, another thing that's really important with your keywords is determining what you don't want to rank for. So we always remove keywords for things like dentist jobs. So if somebody out there is looking for employment as a dentist, we don't want your click budget going to that. And also if you don't do veneers or you don't have a dental hygienist or something like that, we don't want you ranking for those keywords. So what we don't rank for is just as important as what we do rank for. I actually had someone in our search team do some keyword research, and I thought you might be interested in seeing some of these numbers. So I've got a screenshot from a spreadsheet on our next slide. So this is monthly search volumes for keywords that Kiwis are using when they're searching for dentists or dental services. Now this is monthly search volumes. So keywords like dentists and dentist near me are obviously pretty appealing, because if you had even a fraction of this traffic coming to your website, you would be getting pretty busy. The phone would be ringing quite a lot. And then there's also some more specific keywords. So for example, down the bottom of the slide, we can see dentist afterpay. And 90 people are looking for dentists with afterpay in this monthly period. If that's something that you offer, it's really valuable for you to rank for that, because people who are searching for things like dentist afterpay have really high intent. That means that they aren't just sort of like idly looking around for a dentist, they're ready to go. They know that they need someone with afterpay and they're at sort of the end of their customer journey, ready to go. Alrighty, so if we have a look at the next slide, I've got a few more stats that I thought you guys might be interested in. So these are search volumes for various locations. It's interesting that Christchurch got more searches than Auckland, and this is for the last 30 days, so no doubt alert levels had something to do with that. I can only fit 26 out of the 78 results in my slide, so if you're curious about your area, you can just flick me an email. I've got my email address there on the slide, and I can send you the full document so you can have a wee look. On the next slide, I've shown the brand-based searches. If you just navigate to that one, please, Rudy, thank you. So probably no surprises here. Some of the big players, the big brands, are getting a lot of search volumes every month. On the next slide, I've shown the common services or problems that people are searching for a lot. A lot of people are searching for teeth whitening, many of whom no doubt are probably looking for an at-home option, not just a professional option, which might make some of you clinicians cringe a little bit. So we have to be really careful with keywords like toothache, which we've got on there, because these people might be getting their Dr. Google on and they might be looking for solutions that they can adopt themselves at home. They might not necessarily be looking for a professional to help them out. So to round off our crash course on Google, on the next slide, I should introduce you to this idea of non-click searches. So today, 66% of Google searches don't actually result in anyone clicking anything. So instead, I've got an example here of when people have searched for how often should I go to the dentist? And the question is answered here on the Google search results page. So somebody might want to click through and get some more information, but if they're satisfied with what they read, they're going to get on with their day or Google something else. So this is called structured data. It's part of what we do with search engine optimization, and it's great for branding and establishing you as an authority. So before we move on, just coming back to this question of, oh, sorry, you're right on the next slide. Thanks, Rudy. Just coming back to this question of why people are coming to your website, we really need to ensure that our websites are answering their questions or giving them what they are looking for. So you might ask your reception team, what are people consistently asking you? No doubt there are some questions about price, opening hours, some of those basics, and what services that you provide, that kind of thing. So have that conversation with your reception team and make sure that your website actually has that information for people. It could make the receptionist job easier, and it also just helps people that don't want to pick up the phone. They prefer to just look online at their own pace. Now, when people are coming to you as repeat customers, or they're wanting to make another booking, you want to make this really easy on them. So it should be easy for everybody to make a booking. And naturally, this raises the question, should you have an online booking system? I bet this isn't the first time you've had this conversation, but the resounding answer that you'll get from us is yes. Maybe it's no surprise to hear that from a digital agency, but this isn't about using technology for technology's sake. It's about easier conversions for you and a better experience for your patients. So one of the things that we talked about when we were preparing for today was the fact that by 2025, 80% of the workforce and the decision makers and middle management, so a good demographic to have on your books, are going to be millennials. And millennials really like to do things online. They would much rather book an appointment online than pick up the phone. So having that kind of infrastructure set up in your practice is a really worthwhile thing to do. And I know many of you on the call already have that sorted, but if you don't, you're on the fence. Hopefully this is another nudge for you to go ahead and do that. If you're using a system like a clinic management system or some software, it's probably really easy to integrate that kind of thing, or your system might already have something set up for you. So definitely do that. It's a good way to get your website sharing a little bit of the workload and working a little bit harder for you. And then when it comes to your word of mouth referrals, this is always a really great thing. It says a lot about your business when you're being referred, friends and family. It's based on trust, of course. So the person who has referred you really trusts you. And a good practical thing to have on your website is those trust factors. So things like, badges for associations that you're a member of, pictures of your dentists. That can be a really good thing for people who are nervous about coming to the dentist. So keep that in mind. All right, next slide. Let's look at retargeting for upsells. So retargeting, also known as remarketing, this is a form of digital marketing that can help keep your brand or your practice in front of people after they leave your website. So this is really important because for most websites, people don't actually take action on the first time that they actually go there. It might take them a couple of visits for them to convert. So a conversion might be making an online booking, picking up the phone, using your contact form, that kind of thing. So retargeting is a tool to help you reach users who haven't already converted. And you'll have seen remarketing before, no doubt. You've been, shopping online for a product or a service, and then you see ads popping up when you're checking the weather or when you're scrolling on Facebook, that kind of thing. So I was reading, if we go to the next slide, I was reading this article on The Economist, and Culture Kings, an online store, they showed me an ad for their masks. A few days earlier, I was looking at masks online and I visited their website. So they're doing remarketing. They're doing it really well because they're showing me exactly what it was that I was looking at. And no doubt they have their remarketing configured nicely so that if I did buy a mask, they might be showing me an ad for another product, which is good practice. So if I click on the Culture Kings ad, it'll cost them a few cents. Remarketing is hugely cost effective, and because it helps you to get sales across the line, we like to think of it as a bit of a no-brainer advertising cost. And even if people don't click on the ad, they still see your logo, which is a really valuable thing. So again, with retargeting, it's a little bit like Google Ads. You set a monthly budget and as I mentioned, it's generally only a few cents a click, but there is also the cost of getting these ads made by creatives, and then also the management each month to make sure that your ads are performing. So for you dental practitioners, I understand that upsells can be tricky because no doubt you've got time restrictions when you're with your patients, or it can feel awkward to sell something to somebody who's got their mouth pried open and they can't respond, so you don't get those verbal cues, or you can't kind of tell if they're interested, that they want to know more, they can't really ask you questions, or you can't sort of get those cues that maybe they want to move the conversation on. So it can make selling a little bit difficult. And I know that as a healthcare practitioner, no doubt you might feel some sort of unease sometimes selling to people. You're trusted members of the community, and what you say is, it carries a lot of weight. So if you get remarketing to do it for you, it can it can be a great way for it to help you out. Okay, let's have a look. There's some, I've got some examples on the next slide of different remarketing banner ads. So these are just ones that I found on Google Images. The one at the top is by Envisage. It's doing a really good job of just selling one particular product and solving one problem, replacing missing teeth with dental implants. And that's a really effective sales strategy, just focusing on one particular service. And no doubt, if you click the ad, you should be able to go through to a page where you can learn more about that. You can learn about healing time from getting dental implants, maybe some costs, what the ongoing effects are of having dentures as opposed to having your regular teeth. And on the bottom left is an ad on Facebook showing a pretty simple but pretty effective ad for teeth whitening. And on the right is an ad that you might see on like a weather website or just when you're surfing around the internet, these ads pop up. So if I were you and I owned a dental practice, I would use remarketing to help with those upsells. I'd show ads to people who have been to my website for things like teeth whitening, or you could sell regular services like your dental hygienist, sell the benefits of that, or put messaging out there, that it's really important to see your dentist every 12 months, that kind of thing. And these ads aren't just about upselling. They can be a really great tool for building trust and building customer loyalty. And from conversations with Mark, I understand that quite often retention of patients can be a little bit difficult because people can be quite cost sensitive. So they might jump ship if they see a deal going for another dental practice. So when people are exposed to this kind of branding on a regular basis, they are less likely to jump around because they just have greater trust and they have those regular touch points with you. Alrighty, let's have a look at content marketing for patient retention. So business owners love content marketing because you can create a piece of content once and potentially get value from it for years to come. So content marketing is things like blog posts, videos, downloadable PDFs, email newsletters, that kind of thing. You yourself have probably used content marketing as a consumer when you've downloaded a guide or you have watched a product review on YouTube. Content marketing is really about building trust. And one way that content marketing builds trust is by solving people's problems through your content. So let's take a look at an example on my next slide so you can sort of see what I'm talking about. So this is a blog post on a beginner's guide to getting dentures. Can't say I've been through this process myself, but no doubt it's a bit of a big call for people who are doing it. It could be signaling a shift in their age, and I can imagine it's a bit of a process to go through. So they have plenty of questions, and answering these questions in a guide or in a blog post is really going to help them out. So no doubt dentures aren't just for older people. I'm making some assumptions here. If I could see you guys, I'd be getting nods or head shaking, but quite often what we do find is when we're selling to an older demographic, it's not just them who is shopping around the internet looking. Quite often we're selling to their sons and daughters who are maybe in that age group of like 40 to 50, and they're helping them out. They're going through this process with them, trying to find a good provider. Okay, so I found this on the next slide. We've got some some screenshots from a YouTube channel that I found. This is a dental hygienist, an American, who answers lots of very sexy questions about dental health. Things like, do natural toothpaste work? What are the worst foods for your teeth? Which alcohol is best or worst for your teeth? And which toothbrush is best out of manual or electric? I would love to know the answers to all of these questions. And I guess everybody else does too, because these get so many views. These are some of her most popular videos on the next slide. 32 million people watched a video. If you just flick to the next slide, please, Rudy, so everyone can see. 32 million people watched a video on how teeth are cleaned at a dentist. And the video is only 1 year old. Sorry, not 32 million, 3.2 million. And I think it's so exciting that so many people are interested in this stuff. And I hope you guys are excited by that too. So it just goes to show that people are interested in learning from you, and content marketing could be really great. So let me show you an example of a vet that we work with. They've done some really good content marketing. So if you go to the next slide, please. This is Online Vet Store. This is run by practicing vets, and we're their digital partner. So we manage their website and their digital marketing on Facebook and Google and their search engine optimization and things. And part of this is we help them with their content marketing strategy. So we learned through Google Analytics and through different data sources that a lot of people are searching for pet vaccination, flea, and worming. And so they created this blog post about it. And over the last 6 months, I've had 10,000 people come and view that blog post and visit their website. And they're online retailers, so it's really great for them to have that extra traffic source. They're obviously people who take a real interest in pet care, and they're likely to be a good customer for them. Then over on the other side, we've got a blog post about burnt paws, symptoms and treatment that brought in 3,000 views over the last 6 months. So really great content that they've created. Next slide, please. So there's some golden rules on creating content. So first of all, it's really important to focus on that problem-solving aspect. People are more likely to click on a link or open an email that resonates with a problem that they have and that they need a solution to. So with that in mind, it really pays to walk in your customers' shoes. What are their pains and what are their frequently asked questions? Maybe the YouTube lady answered some of those questions. Remember that content marketing is really about building trust, and by demonstrating your skills and experience and positioning yourself as an authority, you're really paving the way to do that. If we go to the next slide, my little lemonade stand here, don't lose sight of the purpose of content and marketing. Remember that it is about pitching and it is about sales. So while it is a branding exercise and it is about educating your audience, it is part of a wider sales strategy. So how do you bridge someone from reading a blog post or watching a video that you might produce to actually being ready to book an appointment or engage with you? Once you've built trust through that unbiased, valuable advice, they're really well groomed to hear an offer from you. So don't be scared to throw in a call to action, asking them to book an appointment or to pick up the phone and get answers to more of their questions that they might have. Really, it's just about telling them what the next step in the process is. All right, next slide. So when it comes to distributing your content, we really like people to spend a lot of time doing this because creating content takes a lot of time and effort. So you want to make sure that you squeeze as much value out of that content as possible. So don't hold back when it comes to blasting it across your channels. Put it on your website, on your social channels like Facebook, and your newsletter if you have them, and even on LinkedIn if you are part of like professional networks and things on there. It can kind of help to get you some carry some weight on there as well. Okay, let's move on to the next slide, Google My Business. Now this is a really simple and free way to help people find you in Google using Google My Business. Now this is a really powerful tool. I mentioned this earlier. I love telling people about this. A lot of people might feel like they don't actually use Google My Business that often, but it's highly likely that you do use it every time you're looking for a local service provider, and especially every time you jump on your phone and you find directions to go somewhere that's using Google My Business data. So let's, if you just go to the next slide, I just want to briefly demonstrate why this is so important. So if we look back at the slide this is one from earlier, you'll remember these map listings, and I've got a highlight or a spotlight on the next slide so you can just sort of see how important those are. Thank you. So these rank really well in Google. There are hundreds of things that Google considers when they're choosing who to rank at the top of the search results, and this is the best thing that you can do. You don't need an agency or any outside help to get this done, get this going. So if you take a look at my screenshot on the next slide, this is how the Mint Design Google My Business listing looks when I search for Mint Design Christchurch on my phone. And you can find yours by searching for your business name and then just tacking on your area or your suburb on the end of it. And like I said, Google My Business is a free tool, and it helps you manage how your business appears in Google search results. So that's things like your location, your hours, customer reviews. You can monitor those and reply to those in Google My Business. And you can also add photos, and some of you will hopefully already have access to your Google My Business accounts. If you don't, just on the next slide there, I've got a little arrow pointing to where you need to go. A little red arrow where it says own this business. You want to click on that link, go through, follow the prompts, and you will need to prove that you are the owner of your business, which it usually takes a few weeks, and I imagine it's probably moving a little bit slower right now because you need to do it via Google. So get onto this ASAP. If you don't have access to it, click that link and get going. Okay, let's have a look on the next slide. I've got a few tips here for everything that you can do yourself to optimize your Google My Business listing. So first of all, add some photos. Otherwise, Google's just going to pull ones that potentially users have uploaded, and that can be unflattering. I don't know how many people would actually upload a picture of their dental practice, but it can happen. The other thing that you want to do, especially when alert levels change, is go on here and change your operating hours. Maybe you've closed completely, maybe you're still open for emergency work. You just want to make sure that that's nice and loud and clear to people who are checking you out and seeing if they can get help from you. You should also encourage your customers to leave you reviews on your Google listing. It's really useful for you to get this feedback, but it's also a good way for your business to stand out. So be sure to reply to any reviews that are left for you. It shows that you're proactive with your customers, and also lets you have your say if there's an unfavorable review that's been left. Now, this is one tactic, getting reviews is one tactic that can really have a huge impact on your business. Google loves accounts with lots of reviews, and I highly recommend that you do this. So I've got a cheat sheet on Google My Business, which I can flick to Rudy and he can send it to you guys via email. And inside that, I've given you a bit of a step-by-step guide on how to ask for Google reviews via email. So you could send it out to people after they've had an appointment with you, that kind of thing. I've actually templated out emails that you or your receptionist can copy and paste. Nice and easy for you. There'll be a tiny little bit of customization that you'll need to put in there, but for the most part, I've done the heavy lifting, so made it nice and easy. Okay, let's move on. Next slide. We're going to talk a little bit about Facebook. I'm going to give you guys a crash course because I'm getting short on time. I've been talking a lot, and then I'll give your brains a bit of a break, and you guys can ask us some questions if you like. So I thought the best way to do this was to answer some of the frequently asked questions that we get about Facebook for Business. If I had $1 for every time we've been asked these questions. So first of all, what do I talk about? Sometimes it's really hard to know what you should be talking about on Facebook or any social media channel. You might have wondered, do people want to hear from their dentist when they're scrolling on Facebook? So first of all, dental care tips. Remember how many people watch those YouTube videos? People really do want to hear from you. And then COVID related updates is another really important one. So even if people aren't seeing that in their news feed when they're scrolling through Facebook, if they need dental care during COVID alert levels, if they can navigate to your page and just see if you've put anything up there, that's a really great, I've done that plenty in the last couple of weeks, just looking for updates to see if various businesses or retailers are open. Then there's competitions or giveaways. That's always a good one if you want to get some engagement or grow how many people you have on Facebook. You have to be careful with these because there are some really strict rules from Facebook on how to run competitions. Honestly, though, I've never actually seen anybody get pulled up for this. So yeah, keep an eye on what the big players like Whittaker's and things are doing. They do really great jobs of doing their giveaways. The other thing you should do is talk about your services on your page. If you've just solved a problem for a client, tell a story about it. Before and after pictures are also a really good one. And showing off photos of your team is really nice social content too. So I wanted to grab some examples to show you guys from different practices around New Zealand. So on the next slide, sorry, I missed one. There we go. So a couple here from Lumino. No surprises that they have a fairly active social media presence. They're showing that they're operating for emergencies during level 4. And then in the middle there, we've got Beely Dental. They are doing a bit of a funny post using a meme of Jacinda Ardern telling everyone to stay home. They're explaining how they'll operate during various alert levels. And I really like this. I think it shows some good humor and personality. And then Lumino again on the right, showing some tips on oral health, which is, oral health at home, which is really good content during lockdown. On our next slide, we've got an engagement announcement, and the bride-to-be is holding a cake, and it's really cool to celebrate people's personal lives and show the people behind the practice. It shows that workplace camaraderie. And then we've got a bit of a cheeky post about Easter eggs and the fact that dentists do eat moderate amounts of chocolate. Again, it's really nice to see that personality coming through. On the next slide, we've got an intro for a new member of the team coming on board. Really a lot of engagement on this one. My guess is that they paid Facebook to boost it. I'll get to that in a minute. Then we've got a giveaway in the middle, on the side from another dentist giving away a gift card on Father's Day. And in the middle there, we've got the post about GenoPay, which is really good if that's a payment option that you offer. When I was looking around for these examples, it wasn't easy to find great examples of dentists doing really good stuff on social media. Sorry if you are doing that and I missed you. It took me a little while to find these ones. I think especially there is a real opportunity here within dentistry to kind of rise up and be a bit of a winner on social media, because no one seems to be really leading the space. There's no one who's getting a ton of engagement. Especially with a little bit of humor, the memes and with the oral education, they seem to be the posts that were getting the most engagement. So I really got the feeling when I was doing this research on social media that the market is quite hard on you dentists. I really came away thinking that people think that you are, they sort of have this feeling about physical pain and the cost of going to a dentist. So if I could see you guys, I imagine you might be nodding along with me, like, yeah, we have it tough with these people. So I really do think that social media could be a good way of sort of breaking down some of those barriers and connecting as real people, especially with having pictures of smiling dentists. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. The next frequently asked question that we get about Facebook is, how often should I post? So I always say, don't be a slave to a schedule, be a slave to quality content. So don't post for the sake of posting. If you're going to put an admin or someone on your team in charge of doing social media updates, I think this is a really important message for them to understand that it's more about getting a good message across that represents the brand well and that will engage with people than it is about keeping up with a schedule. Because if you assign somebody the task of managing your social media pages, the first thing they're going to ask you is, how often should I post? And it really isn't about that as much as it is about that quality content. So if you ask several Facebook experts this question, I bet you would get varying responses from them. I really think that for a lot of Kiwi businesses, 1 to 2 posts a month is okay. Unless Facebook is a really big part of your marketing strategy and you've invested time and expertise in developing a complete content strategy that involves Facebook, keeping your page active a couple of times a month is okay. If you like what I said about the fact that there isn't like a really outstanding performer on social media and you think, hey, that could be me, I'm really interested in that, you can talk to somebody like us about a social media strategy and how to get there and sort of creating some foundation strategy so that you know where you're going, get that work done from the start. Okay, let's go to the next frequently asked question, which is, should I pay to boost posts? So reach on Facebook is no longer free. It used to be, good old days, but it's not anymore. So that's why we tend to have to boost posts, or at least boost our important ones. So business pages isn't getting the same organic reach as it used to. I remember the good old days when we first started on Facebook in 2010. Our engagement was amazing, and that's how we ended up with, we have 20,000 something fans on our page, which is a lot for we're a medium largish agency, so it's a lot for us to have. So, and that was just because it was such a different time back then. So to get reach now organically is difficult, so we really do need to start thinking about paid advertising or boosting posts. This probably isn't news to you, but you may have worried about or wondered about how much you actually should be spending when you're using the boost function. If you're wondering what the boost function is, on my screenshot there, you can see that little boost button. So This is a post that I did last week with some of our teams celebrating level 3. James from our Auckland team didn't get to celebrate in this, and I was actually, we were trying to hide it from the Auckland team that we were doing this, but here it is. And there's a boost button there that we could have clicked and could have thrown some money at. This kind of post gets a good amount of natural engagement for us anyway, so we didn't bother boosting it. But generally what works best is boosting your best posts. So an important post right now could be your plans for level 2 if you're not already there, or if you are there, like how you're operating, how you might be operating differently, if you've got different hours, if you're clearing backlog and working longer hours, that kind of thing. And a good rule of thumb for boosting is that if a post is going to produce you income fairly directly, like a deal or a promotion or info about the fact that your clinic is now open because you're moving into level 2 or level 3, that's potentially going to get you customers soon. So it's worth throwing some good money at it. And I would say that in general, there are some good opportunities to really get some content out there on Facebook. I have been keeping an eye on it since we went to level 3 level 2 and 3 in the South Island, and there hasn't actually been that much activity. So there's definitely some opportunities, especially for you in Auckland who are hopefully heading that way very soon, to really shout it from the rooftops when things do change for you and really get some good content out there. So to boost your post, you need to click that big blue button. And then if we go to the next slide, just wanted to explain a little bit about what Facebook's going to ask you for next. Thank you. So Facebook will let you choose your goals, your audience, your duration of your boost, and your budget. So with your goals, you can choose if you want to have more engagement on your post or if you want to link people away to your website. Facebook generally wants people to stay on Facebook. That's how they make money. So you will generally pay a little bit more if you want people to go across to your website and get them off Facebook. With your audience, you can choose your local area and age group that you want to target. If you're running one Facebook account for multiple dental practices, or if you're a franchise or a multi-location practice, this can be tricky, and it might be better for you to run 2 separate posts or 2 separate campaigns. With duration, our technical team have said that it's best to keep this short, like 1 or 2 days, unless you're promoting something kind of time sensitive. Then in that case, forget this rule and just go with whatever makes most logical sense to you. Now with your budget, Facebook will suggest a budget to you, and they're actually generally pretty conservative. So if you just want to go with what Facebook suggests and see what kind of results you get, I think that's perfectly fine to do. Their suggestions are generally not going to break the bank. So for the post that I just showed you, the one of us eating takeaways for level 3, they suggested $27 NZ. So yeah, it's not big money. But again, if you are promoting something that's going to directly bring you a lot of income in, then it might be worth throwing a bit more money at it. Okay, so that is our 3 most commonly asked questions about Facebook. If you have more, feel free to join in on our Q&A session. And on that note, I'll hand back to you, Mark, for our Q&A so we can dive right in.
Thank you, Ali. I really like some of these things that people can do immediately, like Google My Business. Just in terms of the different marketing channels and websites, like what do you actually use to track the performance to make sure that these channels are actually performing?
James from Auckland, do you want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the first and foremost, the tool that's kind of the gold standard for measuring any sort of digital marketing based performance is Google Analytics. So it's a free tool that Google puts out that you install on your website. And if you don't already have that installed, I'd highly, highly recommend that you have it. You can't capture any data retrospectively. So you're much better to set it up before you need it than when you realize you need it. But that's really the gold standard for actually measuring what's happening on your website. The things that you'd probably want to be keeping an eye on to gauge whether something, particular digital marketing activities being successful or not, really depends on what the main goal of the campaign is. But let's say, Ali, to use your example from earlier, we're looking at a Google search campaign. For example, we're paying for people to paying to get in front of people who are actively looking for what we offer. You'd want to be keeping a really close eye on what it's costing you to generate those clicks in the first place, how many people are clicking through your ads each month, and then what's happening to those people once they click through. We think of it on a cost per click basis because that's what Google gives us as a metric, but really we're looking to generate leads or customers for our business as cheaply as possible. So the job's definitely not done just getting them to click onto the website. What actually happens to them once they get there?
Thanks, James. Just in terms of the different marketing channels, there seems to be a plethora of opportunity out there. How do you work out to prioritize in terms of time and also budget?
What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question because it all depends on the business goals. But yeah, sorry, can you repeat that question again? Yeah.
Just with the marketing channels available, how do people go about prioritizing? Like, what is if they could just do one thing, what would that one thing be?
If you're spending money, it's definitely Google search because the people are ready to buy. As Ali mentioned before, around that keyword, that Afterpay, the dentist practice that has Afterpay, they're really trying to find someone that has that service available right now, and they're looking to contact. If you've got more time, which probably not many people on the call do, that's where your content marketing, kind of building up that brand awareness and kind of, so if you've got more time than money, if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of customers, content marketing and spending a lot of time building up that customer base is going to be the key because, Google advertising can cost a bit of money, but it's well worth it. And then getting your brand out there. Retargeting is really cost effective, as Ali said before as well. So I guess that's the things. The SEO is a very long-term thing, and it can be difficult because if there is a high competition and you've got those big brands out there as well, they can take those top spots, and then you might not get a whole lot of traffic to start with. But then if you build up those local keywords of your suburb, then you could get a lot of good traffic as well later on.
Yeah.
You go ahead, James.
No, you go, Ali.
Yeah, I think when we look at people's circumstances, sort of breaking down what Shane has said, if it's about retention, I'd probably go down the route of really pushing it on Facebook or email marketing, like the content marketing piece delivered via email. And like Shane said, if you're thinking long-term about growing a brand, then search engine optimization is a good way to do it. If you are a new practice or you're bringing on a new staff member and they need to get their books filled up, Google Ads really does deliver pretty quickly and the return on investment comes pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to build on that last point of yours, Ali, there's definitely a spectrum of digital marketing channels as far as like the Google searches of the world that are kind of instant gratification down this end of the spectrum. And then there's the really long-term, super valuable stuff that has a longer kind of feedback loop down this end of the spectrum. And for most businesses, it makes sense to start down this end, always with a mind to move up the spectrum as you go, because things get cheaper as you move to the kind of longer term stuff as well.
Thanks, James. If there are any more questions, if you want to put them in the chat box, there's a couple that have come through from the audience. One of them is with the Google reviews, I understand the patient would have to have a Google email account themselves. Is that correct? Or is it an easier way around?
They do need to have a Google account. They don't necessarily have to have a Gmail account, but if people are using Chrome, which most people are, then yeah, they would use their Google account to leave the review. And that's so that the reviews are, it's sort of a verification method for Google, or that they can ensure that the reviews are from real people. If they don't have a Google account, most people have a Facebook account, so you can always get them to leave you a review there.
Okay, great. There's another question. With being so busy actually hands-on treating patients and trying to speak public language that public can understand, who's the best designated organising website and who's best to designated organising website, Google and Facebook?
Yeah. It's probably somebody non-clinical, somebody that's not a practicing dentist, because you can really break it down. One of the things that I often say to clients when they're creating content for their website is write content that your mum would understand. So really removing the jargon from, you know, what you're talking about. When it comes to content on social media channels, yeah, often somebody young and fun, somebody that has like a good personality and that can kind of like level with people on social channels and answer questions, especially if people leave snarky comments. It's kind of fun if somebody can kind of go on there and like handle that situation really well. So yeah, what I often see is it gets put on the receptionist or the admin's person's list, and that's okay. There's lots of courses that they can take online as well that, you know, would only cost them a few hours, where they can get some really good tips on how to actually get the most out of their time that they spend on it.
Yeah,
great.
And I'd always recommend is not paying an agency or like kind of a subcontractor to do some of that work, because it's not going to be as authentic, and it certainly won't be as timely. But getting an agency to kind of guide or give recommendations or kind of build out a content strategy can be a good way, and just having that fallback. So a bit of governance work for a while just to get them on track, and then sort of leaving it hands-on within the practice, I think is best. There's so many companies that will offer it, but you end up with just the same post that everyone else is doing, and it's not that exciting, and no one will engage with it.
Do people underestimate the value and importance of reviews?
I think yes, yeah, and it's such a silly thing, the little like 5-star rating that you see when you Google someone, and you like to think that it doesn't affect your judgment, but we just know for a fact that it does. You might, even if you don't consciously look at it, if that's your first impression of a brand, and you see that they've got a 3.6 average rating on Google, it really says something. From that perspective, I guess the other way that is probably a little bit less commonly understood is that because we're talking about Google reviews here, and Google is very self-serving, your reviews, the quality of your reviews and the amount of them actually affects your organic rankings as well. So how highly you're showing up in non-paid search rankings. And that takes a lot of people by surprise. And I think, you know, if you've got customers that are happy with the work that you're doing, getting them to leave a review is massively undervalued, I think, in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, if you're doing offline advertising or word of mouth advertising, the first thing people are going to do to search for the practice is Google it, and it's going to be right there. So, you know, referrals are going to be from a trusted source, but then if they go to the page and, you know, 2 out of the 5 people that have left a review are leaving bad reviews, because you know, it's much easier if you know, angry at someone to probably put a negative review on rather than a positive review. It's going to give you a pretty bad rating, and then that's going to be the first thing. And do they trust that person's judgment at that point? And that's yeah, we've seen it happen. If we've built it up, the conversion rates increase dramatically on the website.
But I suppose there's a bit of authenticity. If there is a bad review, you can actually manage it as well.
Yeah, 100%. I actually, yeah, we've got 60-something 5-star reviews, and I just wish we had a 4-star in there somewhere, because I think it does look a lot more authentic when you have like the odd review, especially if you handle it really well. If you kind of go in and reply to that review and come across as really reasonable, then that can be a really good thing for your brand.
We've got another question come through, and Maddie's interested in wanting to hear an opinion on using paid Google ads for products, for example, toothbrushes or whitening kits. Obviously, there's not much profit to be made per item, but if sold in high enough volumes, there could be a market there. Is there a formula?
So I think that's use retargeting really well. If they're already a customer, could you use retargeting to sell some of the products to, because you know that they've already got trust in your brand because they've been to you. And then if you try to get them to upsell and buy products, the conversion rate's going to be far higher, and you'll have a relationship with a great supplier like Mark that can, create some content possibly for everyone as well, which could really help get that across the line. But James, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just going to say, I think it's really important it's a really good question, really important to re-highlight what you said at the start, Ali, around customer lifetime value, especially if we're talking about consumable products like toothbrush heads for, say, a sonic toothbrush, or or at-home teeth whitening kit or teeth whitening services. Is that if you're using something like Google Ads, you're going to pay to acquire them the first time, but we're not going to have to pay the same thing to get them back the second and third and fourth time. That's kind of the customer experience's job. So if they have a good experience and they have a need, they'll come straight back to us. So quite right in that, like, a lot of products aren't going to have the gross margin in them to support purely acquiring customers through something like Google Ads. But if you take the customer lifetime value into account and take steps to maximize that repeat purchase behavior, then absolutely, yes, it can be viable.
In terms of that,
sorry, Ali.
Part of Maddie's question about the formula, Shane, I wonder if you could comment on what research you might do in terms of keyword research and search volumes before you would start a campaign like that.
Yeah. You could ask, even email us afterwards and kind of find out the keyword cost of, the electric toothbrushes or the sonic toothbrushes and all that kind of thing, and find out what the click cost is. And then we can work out, we can give you industry averages of conversion rates. And then you can sort of work backwards and go, right, this is going to cost this much to get a customer. But as Ali pointed out earlier, if you get a customer that wasn't a customer before, they're buying a toothbrush, does that lead on to other services once you get them on board? Can you get them into actually, do some hygienist treatments, or, like teeth whitening treatments and all that sort of stuff later, which could actually be a much more high value thing than just selling the toothbrush itself. And that could be a better way of looking at it rather than just trying to make the margin on the toothbrush.
Sure, yeah. I think you guys have both touched on that idea of the cross sell, and I wonder if even it could be as simple as having a flyer that goes into each product sale and it goes out the door into the courier saying, like, this is the other things that we can help you with.
Great. Well, look, we're just about out of time. Just one last question. I'm just interested where radio advertising fits into that marketing mix. Is it still relevant in today's environment?
Really good question. I do think radio has its place. And you asked the question earlier about tracking things. And Google Analytics does this really well to see if radio campaigns are actually working, because that's something that the radio guys are really good at selling their products, and they make it seem like it's just a branding exercise over time. But there's some really tangible things we can do in Google Analytics to see if it's working. So what we can do is start tracking brand searches on Google, because the first thing that someone does hear a radio ad is going to go onto Google. And we've seen this before. So how is that trending up over time? And when you start the radio campaign, is it actually affecting that brand searches? If it's not, then we can say it's not worth continuing. But any branded related advertising is going to work. Is it going to be worth enough to keep it going is the big question. And that's where analytics and just making sure that you're setting KPIs for yourself and making sure that you're tracking against those is worthwhile. But there's sponsorship, there's sponsorship that you can do locally as well with sports teams and all that kind of thing. That can do wonders for the business as well. And that's the way to track it, is just through Google Analytics and seeing that brand uplift or brand searches over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that goes for bus backs and billboards and, like you said, local rugby team sponsorship and all of that. All absolutely has its place. It's just, how is it going to be measured? And as long as you're making an apples and apples comparison with all of the other options available to you, then you can't really go wrong.
Great. Well, we're out of time, guys. So really appreciate your efforts. Thanks, Ali and the team from Mint Design. From the team at Allura, really want to thank all our audience who have joined us today. I'm Mark, Managing Director of Allura Healthcare, and the CPD number for you to register is 56 80 98. That's 56 80 98. We have our next webinar, DENTACHAT session, is on next Friday, and we have Professor Colosi from the USA talking on introduction to laser dentistry, which should be fascinating. So we look forward to that next Friday at noon. But thanks again, Ali. Thank you, Shane. And thanks, James, and thank you to all the audience.